Welcome to Truth and Justice with Vivian King. I am your host, Vivian King, and we have another great story to tell tonight to educate you about the criminal justice system here in Harris County. I have Wanda Davenport's story of the crooked cop. She's going to tell us a story about reporting her car being stolen last year and how an officer retaliated because she had previously had an encounter with this police officer that caused her to make an IAD report. We'll explore how something like that might happen and what you, the viewers, think should happen in the future. You know you're welcome to call in the call-in number. It'll be shown throughout the show. It's 713-807-1794. I invite your calls and your conversation about the criminal justice system in Harris County. One of the other things that plagues people when they get misdemeanor convictions and felony convictions is it's very difficult to find a job, and that is the plight of Wanda Davenport, who wants to work to support her children. She doesn't want to be on public assistance. She wants to work, but this conviction for false report to a police officer is hindering her from getting good jobs. And so without further ado, I will direct us to Miss Wanda Davenport to tell her story. All right, Ms. Davenport, thank you so much for agreeing to tell your story. I know it's difficult to put yourself out here like that.
Yes, ma'am.
And we first met by you calling me to tell me about a story just to try to figure out if you could do something about it.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Tell us what happened to you.
Well, the case happened, the first incident happened during Christmas, like in '07. I called the police because my apartment was broken into, and they took all my kids' Christmas presents and everything. So the cop came, and him and his partner, and they was very negative towards me. And I was trying to tell him what happened and how it happened. He was like, well, how you did this? And I was like, why you have an attitude towards me? And I'm just telling you my bikes and every material that was stolen from me, and you are talking real negative, and that's like I did something wrong.
Now let's talk about that. This was December of 2007.
Yes, ma'am.
You lived in an apartment complex.
Yes,
what
ma'am.
side of town was that on?
On the northeast.
And were you working at the time?
No, I was looking for a job, and like I was going on interviews.
Okay, but you had recently been working that year.
Yes.
And how many children do you have?
I have 2.
Okay. And who lived in the household with you during this incident?
It was me and my 2 kids, and occasionally my boyfriend would come over, but it's mainly just me and my 2 kids.
All right. So how did you discover that your children's presents had been stolen?
Well, I had some in the storage, and I had some in my bedroom, so they wouldn't see it. And I came home, and I was like, look, and it wasn't there. I was like, wait a minute, some stuff is missing.
From your bedroom?
From the bedroom and the storage outside, which was the padlock, but the padlock was replaced, it wasn't there either. And he was like, it don't seem like it was padlock. I said, sir, it was a padlock on this lock outside.
So somebody stole the padlock off, or cut it off, or broke it off?
Okay. And how he said, looked like wasn't never one there. I said, yes, sir, it was one. He was like, I think it wasn't stolen. But he gave me the instant report after the fact, and I kept telling him, but finally he gave me the instant report.
So you call the police from your cell phone. They come over. There's 2 police officers. One we know his name, Emmanuel Pavel, P-A-V-E-L, who's with the Houston Police Department,
Yes,
and his partner.
Yes,
Is that correct? You said he had a female partner.
It's a female partner.
So Emmanuel Pavel is a white cop?
Yes.
And then he had a black female partner. And you don't remember her name?
No.
Okay. So they come in, and he is really rude to you.
Yes.
It's right before Christmas.
Right before
I'm
Christmas.
sure you're very upset.
Oh, yes.
And he's not being comforting or kind to you.
No, he wasn't.
So this is December 2007. So how did he make you feel when he was being so mean to you?
Like I did something wrong. Like I was just doing something, like, you know, that it happened, like I'm trying to get something free
But how could you get something free from the police?
I don't know, because see, I have renter's insurance, so he trying to say that I was doing that trying to get renter's insurance.
Well, how did you know you had renter's insurance?
Because I was talking to him, and he was asking me a lot of questions, and I was like, and I brought that up, and I was like, oh, Lord, it's Christmas time, my baby's going to be so unhappy. I said, I was trying to think to myself, I said, luckily, I have renter's insurance, maybe they could help me get my stuff back. Then that's when he flipped the script. He was like, nah, I think you did it for the renter's insurance. And I was like,
but you wouldn't have had the the check in time for Christmas
No,
for your
it
children.
wouldn't. I said, first of all, sir, I save up money for my kids. I said, I don't want my kids what everybody else playing and my kids don't have anything. I said, I already had all this. I had a bike, I had toys, I had everything for my kids. Why would I do that? I'm not that type of woman. I work very hard to take care of my kids. He was like, okay, ma'am, whatever. Then he finally took it and he left. I was like, I don't like how his attitude was. So I think it was the next day or the day before, after that, I went downtown and did an AIA report on him.
And that's a report where you make with the Internal Affairs
Yes,
Division of
ma'am.
the Houston Police Department.
Yes, ma'am.
And that must be done in person. So you went down in person.
Yes, ma'am.
And you wrote
I
out
think
what
it's
happened.
on the 13th floor
Okay.
down, and I went there, and then they gave me the paperwork, and they asked me, they said, ma'am, what do I said, I need to do a Turner affair report on one of your officers. And they asked me what happened. I said, well, he came, I had a broke-in and burglary in my apartment, and he came with a nasty attitude, and he acted like I was the criminal, and I didn't appreciate it. Could I do a report on him?
Right.
And they gave me the report paper, I filled it out, and I gave it to him, and I left.
Okay. And so when you left, did you ever hear from IED after that?
No, I called, and they didn't tell me. They was like, we gonna get to it, but I never heard anything back on it at all.
Okay, so then let's go to then the next year, May 1st, 2008, you have to call the police again.
Yes.
So tell us what happened.
My car was stolen, and I called the police and to report it stolen, and he came to my house, and he took the report, and he left, and about 30 minutes to an hour later, he come beating on my door. And I was in my room. I didn't hear it at first. He come beating hard with his, I think it was his nightstick or his little lamp, his flashlight hitting hard.
On your door?
On my door.
Wow.
I was like, who's beating on my door like that? It was like 1 o'clock in the morning he came back. So he came in, he said, your car wasn't stolen.
Well, hold on, let's not get that far. Let's talk about first, you called, how did you report the car stolen?
I called 911 and they dispatched an officer to my house.
And it was the same officer that you had
Yes,
done the IED report
yes,
about?
ma'am.
Okay, so tell me what his attitude was when he took that report.
At first, he seemed like he was all right. He took the report and he was like, okay, ma'am, I'm going to give you, he gave me a little incident report, had a case number and everything on it. He was like, okay, I'm going to put it in there with a police report that your car was stolen. And he left. Him and his partner, they left.
Was it the same partner that he had before?
No, it was a different person.
Okay.
And he left. So I didn't think anything of it. So I went back in my bedroom. My kids was in their bedroom sleep, and I started back watching TV. Then I heard somebody, like 30 minutes to an hour, was just beating. I was like, who is that? It kind of pissed me off. I thought it was a neighbor or something. I was like, and I did kind of curse. I was like, who the hell at my door? So it was him. I was like.
Okay, now what time do you think he came the first time that night?
The first time, I think it was like about 10, probably 9 or 10.
PM. And so you're not expecting somebody to come knock him, the same police officer to come back at 1 in the morning?
No, I was not expecting it.
Wow. So when he comes beating on your door again, what, you're upset? You think it's your neighbors?
Yeah, I was like, what? Who is at my door? And I opened it. He said, well, ma'am, about your car. And I was like, okay, do you have any information for me? I thought he was coming back to tell me some information. No, he was like, no, I've been put you in jail for a false police report. I was like, what are you talking about? Then he come and tell me, I know you wasn't in the car. I know this. I was like, okay, if you know this and you know I didn't do anything wrong, why are you back at my house? I think you know who did it. I think you loaned your car out to someone. I was like, no. He said, well, your car was in a police chase and it flipped over and all that. I was like, well, how do I supposed to know this? I'm reporting my car stolen. So why are you telling me like I'm aware of what's going on? He was like, well, I'm putting you in jail for false police report. And he put me in my chair, and he put the cuffs on me, and he started going to my bedroom.
Now, are your children there seeing this?
My kids was, it was 1 o'clock in the morning. They was asleep in their bedroom.
And how old were they?
At that time,
This is 08.
08. I think my daughter was 14, because she's 16 now, and my youngest is 11.
So right now they're 16
And 11.
So 4 years ago they would have been
12 and
12 and 7.
7. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So I was like, and he had me in a chair with my hands behind my back, and he went in my kids' room, closed the door. I was like, what are you in my kids' room for? Then he came out. Then he went in the other room, my bedroom, and I was like, sir, you don't even have a search warrant. What are you doing in my rooms? He said, shut up. You going to jail. I was like,
Wow.
And my boyfriend at the time, he was in the room. He didn't have any clothes on. He made him get dressed and come in the living room. And he was like, what's going on? What's going on? What happened to the car? I was like, sir, I don't know what you're talking about. The car was stolen. No, it wasn't. You know exactly what happened. I said, sir, you just told me what happened. I don't know what happened. He was like, well, you going down. So next thing I know, he was taking me downstairs. He had called a female officer. He pat me down, and they put me in the back of the car. And I had to post bail for...
So you had to post a bond.
Yes.
And you'd never been in jail before, had you? I mean, you don't have a criminal record?
No, I don't have a criminal record. I don't have no felonies or anything on me.
Right. So it shows that on May 1st, you had to post a bond.
Yes, ma'am. Well, I stayed in jail for like 2 days until they gathered the money to get me out.
And you had a $500 bond?
Yes.
So who bonded you out?
My boyfriend got some money, and I also had to borrow some money from my mom.
So how much did you have to pay to bondsmen?
I think they paid $200. I'm not sure how much they paid to get out. And I got out because they first had me in the city. I stayed in the city overnight, and then they took me to the county. Transfer.
Wow. So how did you feel about being arrested for, I mean, who would ever think if you report your car stolen, the police come back and tell you that it's been in a high-speed chase? So certainly if it flipped over like that, they caught who was in it, or they got a glimpse of who was in it because it was a police chase.
Well, they said the person got away.
Well, they know it wasn't you. You look normal.
Yeah.
You weren't cut up. You weren't messed
up. And he told me that. He said, I know it wasn't you. I said, okay. So what is the... And I said, if you felt that I did anything wrong, when you first came to my house, why didn't you take me down the first time? Why would you leave and come back? And then come and, accusing me of something I'm not even aware of.
Wow. So you go to jail. They have to bond you out. And then what did you do? How did you go about selecting an attorney?
Well, I went through the phone book trying to find something that reasonable. I had to call around and try to find something reasonable that I could afford. And I came up with, I had to borrow the money to pay the lawyer. And I told him what happened when they kept rescheduling it at first. And I was like, why are they keep rescheduling and redoing it?
What is your expectation? That's one of the frustrating things about being a criminal lawyer, or the reset. So what did you think would happen?
I thought it was going to be dismissed because basically he came in my house. He went and searched one of the rooms, and they didn't have a search warrant. And I didn't give them any reason, and I didn't do anything wrong about my car being stolen. So I really thought the case was going to be dismissed. I said they resetting it. Maybe they found the evidence, and they're going to have it dismissed. But no, that's not what happened. Okay,
and you said you went through the phone book to find a lawyer. You called around.
Yes.
And so how much did you end up paying a lawyer?
But altogether it was $250 before, and then he told me if I go to court, it'd be another $1,000.
So how much did you pay?
I think altogether at the beginning, probably about $300 and something with everything. Cause the retrial, he kept charging me more whenever he had to retrial it. So he was like, I think about $300 and something.
Okay. So, and we won't call any names on who the lawyer is, but you think you paid about $300, and you thought it was going to be, because you saw your lawyer talking to the prosecutor about what happened. Now, one of the things I want to explain is when a police officer reports a crime, he can't just arrest you. He has to call the DA's office. They have to accept charges. Or if they do arrest you, they have to let you go if the DA's don't accept charges. So he had to tell the district attorney's office something that sounded like a crime. And so I don't know what the evidence was. Did your lawyer ever show you the police report?
No.
Did you ask him to see it?
No, he didn't ask. Well, I was trying to figure out the police report because I asked him, I said, so what is in there? And for first, the reason why he kept resetting it, he didn't even want to show up, the police. And they was saying for the longest that they was trying to get his statement. That's the reason why it kept being reset. I was like, why is it taking him so long to give a statement? And that's what the DA kept saying, well, we cannot pursue the case because the officer have not provided a statement. We still trying to get with the officer.
Now let me switch to Equator Turner. I have a lawyer that does a lot of misdemeanor work in the studio that I know very well. So Equator, introduce yourself to my audience, and I'm going to ask you a few questions about what she said.
Good evening. My name is Equator Turner.
All right, Equator, and let's talk about how long you've been practicing in the misdemeanor courts.
I've been practicing in the misdemeanor courts since 2006.
So you were familiar with the misdemeanor court system. So a lot of the things we do is dealing with a lot of false impressions. So what do you think she means when she says they wanted the police officer's statement? Because the reason why I'm saying this is because when a police officer arrests you on the street, like at your house, at some point during the night, they're going to have to email a synopsis through a system we call GIMS if you work in the court, but it's the Justice Information Management System. And the acronym is GIMS. And so they're going to type up a little paragraph of what happened, email it to the district attorney's office. The DA's already verbally on the phone accepted charges, okay? And so a hold is placed on you while you're at the city. Then the police officer types a little synopsis to the police intake desk at the Harris County District Attorney's Office that's manned 24 hours a day. And from there, the clerk's office, the district clerk's office, types up a complaint or the information, which I'm reading from, that I pulled offline to know about her case. And it's kind of like a traffic citation. It tells you what you're charged with. And basically it says that in the name and by the authority of the state of Texas, the undersigned Assistant District Attorney of Harris County charges Wanda Davenport, hereafter called the defendant, on or about May 1st, 2008. She did then and there unlawfully with intent to deceive, knowingly make a false statement to wit, telling the officer her car had been stolen, to a police officer named Emmanuel Pavel, that's Emanuel Pavel, conducting an investigation of failure to stop and give information involving the defendant on April 30th, 2008, and the statement was material to the investigation against the peace and dignity of the state of Texas. Now, what she's charged with, that's like what her lawyer knows she has to defend. And the lawyer then goes in and reads the police report and sees what the officer wrote to support it. Now, the police report is usually typed up later. It's different from that little synopsis that's emailed to the DA's office. That's so the DA's will know how to type up the information. And when she gets to court, the officer has then actually written up a lengthy police report with details, and that is, the DA's access that, and that's what the lawyer looks at on your first court appearance to see exactly what the support is that the police officer has for this allegation. And what this allegation is totally different from what she said, because she hasn't told us. Failure to stop and give information is when two people have a car wreck, and it's our duty under Texas law to exchange your insurance card. You know, we're required to have insurance, motor vehicle insurance, and you're supposed to exchange it. If you don't, that's a crime. So like if me and Equator Turner have an accident and I leave the scene without giving her my information, she can call the police, and when they find me, they can charge me with failure to stop and give information, because that's a Class B misdemeanor under our state laws. So she's been charged with telling the police officer her car was stolen, when in fact they're saying that they had some proof that she had an accident and failed to stop and give information. That's a lot to prove, because what that means is that the officer would have to prove, the district attorney's office would have to bring to court the person who she had the accident with to identify her as the driver of the car that had the accident that she's reported stolen, to prove that it was a false report, because he wouldn't know she had an accident and who she had it with. So that would have been a lot to prove. Equator, now tell me what your thoughts are on this.
My thoughts on, back to the question you asked me about the officer's statement. The reason why the district attorney needs the officer's statement is so they have a police report which is biased, which, you know, the officer makes about 2 or 3 days, maybe, you know, within 5 days after the incident. And it basically says what happened, and it's a very short synopsis, just a summary of what happened. And the reason why they want to get his statement so that maybe he can add some more details that are not in the police report or not in the actual DIMS, you know, when they send in the DIMS to the email to the district attorney's office. So that's the reason why they need to speak with the officer, see if there was additional facts that they have gotten from him that he didn't place in the police report.
In addition to that, they're telling the officer what she said. So when her lawyer goes to court and says, well, she said she just reported an accident, she wasn't in the accident, it didn't happen that way, then the assistant district attorney assigned to that court is going to write that down, call the police officer and say, well, this is what she said, and that doesn't go along with what you have in the police report. So like Attorney Turner just said, they're going to ask for additional information. Now, what do you say about what she says? And but one of the things that is a misconception that people have is that when the district attorney accepts charges, they're not going to just dismiss it. The DA's role is not to be the judge or the jury. They're to support the police officer, okay? Your lawyer's role is to support you. The judge is the referee of the two parties. One of the things that's frustrating as a lawyer is that my clients will say, well, I want to talk to the judge. You can't talk to the judge. It's illegal. That's not your role. The judge cannot talk to you. The judge is the referee of the parties. Each court has about 1,000 cases pending. The judge's role is to manage those cases, make sure they're moving through the system, make sure you have a fair trial if you want one, and make sure if you plead guilty that you understand what you're pleading guilty to and you knowingly and voluntarily give up your right to have 6 jurors in a misdemeanor case decide whether you're guilty or not guilty. In this case, you absolutely should have gone to trial. And so now we're stuck with the fact that you pled guilty to a crime you didn't commit.
Yes, ma'am.
Because you're poor.
Yes, ma'am.
And that's one of the things that's extremely frustrating to me as an advocate and a defender of the Constitution, because you should have gone to trial in this case because you didn't do anything wrong. And unfortunately, you couldn't afford it. You hired a lawyer that was cheap, and you couldn't afford proper representation. You hired someone that's known for pleading cases, and you couldn't afford a trial. So you really should have had a court-appointed lawyer to go to trial, which I know people say, oh, I hate court-appointed lawyers. But some of the best lawyers down there are court-appointed, and at least you don't have to plead guilty to something that you didn't commit. Because just think, when I look at this information that you're charged with, how are they going to prove? They got to prove what they wrote. So how are they going to prove that you failed to stop and give information? Because that has to be the other person you had the accident with to say that they saw your face and that you didn't give them information when you had this wreck. But yet they said it was a police officer in a police chase. So maybe the police report should have contained the police officer that identified you as the person that's driving. But yet he told you he knew it wasn't you.
Yeah, he said it was me. And and looking at the car, you could not even make it out that car. It was totaled. I don't even see how anyone made it out. It was almost like a trash compactor was in. When
It looked like somebody had just...
Yes, just...
Wow.
Totaled.
What type of car was it?
It was a 2004 Nissan Nissan Altima.
Nissan Altima. So that's a pretty sizable car.
Yes, ma'am. But when you seen it, it looked like a compact, almost like a real small car. It was just the seat, the front was inside the car. It was like you couldn't even get out. I thought somebody died in the car, how the car looked. Like it was just total.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. Wow. So anyway, Ms. Turner, let's talk about the actual law and that. I asked you to look it up on your iPad. So tell us what the law says about false report to a police officer.
The law for this is Penal Code 3708. And the Penal Code 3708 says a false report to a police officer or a law enforcement employee. That a person, and it's the same as it was when Ms. Davenport back in 2008, the law is the same, that a person commits an offense if, with intent to deceive, that he knowingly makes a false statement that is material to a criminal investigation, and he makes that statement to, one says, a police officer conducting an investigation or an employee of a law enforcement agency that's authorized by the agency to conduct an investigation, and that the actor knows is conducting the investigation.
So, based on what you read, how do you think that the district attorney's office would have been able to prove that Ms. Davenport committed this offense beyond a reasonable doubt?
I do not see how the district attorney's office could have proved this, because they had to prove that Ms. Knowingly is a mental, they had to mentally prove that she knew she was making a false police report that was material to the investigation. I mean, Ms. Davenport, even the officer said that he did not know that he knew that Ms. Davenport wasn't in that car.
So if she wasn't in the car, then how could she have failed to stop and give information in an accident? I mean, so that's the thing that's so crazy.
There's no way.
Shame on you, lawyer, for pleading her guilty to a crime she didn't commit. And I say that because Ms. Davenport had a job interview, or a job like the next day she was about to start. Tell us about that, Ms. Davenport.
The company name was Pollock, and I have my CDL Class A. And I was going to start, it was going to make $16 an hour, get paid every Friday. And he called me the day before, and I pretty much talked myself in the job over the phone. So he said, just show up tomorrow and give your name, and you'll get your packet, orientation, and everything. I said, okay. But unfortunately, I was in jail that same day, so I was unable to go for the job. But when I did get out on bond, I did call the job, and he was like, it's no, no.
You didn't show up, so
No,
they
I
didn't think
shouldn't.
you're
And
reliable.
also, I think he was already that he looked it up. Since it's public knowledge, if you put my name in, and he had the social security number from the application, I think he already knew. So and he told me no. But then the following week, I got on, and I had another job at Metro was going to hire me. But also, by they seeing that was declined from me. So I was like, the jobs that I'm normally making money, I can't get anymore.
And you used to having jobs making $15 to $20 an hour.
Yes.
Because you graduated from high school in 1994.
Yes, ma'am.
And you've been working and taking care of your 2 kids.
Yes, ma'am. I even went to truck driving school so I could get my CDL, because that's a lucrative job, make pretty good money. So I got my CDL, and I was doing that, driving 18-wheelers. So after that, it's just not, it's like I go on interviews, and they're like, oh, no, Ms. Davenport, we don't even hire people with misdemeanors at all. I was like, okay.
Well, unfortunately, a lawyer pled her guilty. I mean, how did y'all have that conversation? Even though you knew you were not guilty, what made you plead guilty to a crime you didn't commit?
Well, because he said, well, Ms. Davenport, if you want to go farther, you're going to have to go to court, and we could probably get it dismissed like that. But and then he said, well, I said, how much would that cost? He said, well, you have to pay me another $1,000. I was like, I don't have that kind of money. He said, well, without that kind of money or paying me, I cannot go any further. He said either you could plead guilty or take deferred adjudication, which I didn't understand what deferred adjudication was. So I said, well, you know what? I got kids. I got to raise. I can't keep coming to court. So I'm just going to say guilty. He said, well, you don't have the money to go to court. The best thing I say is go and get it over with and go and go guilty. So I said, I have to live my life. I have kids. I can't just keep putting my life on hold to go to court and doing something, because I got to pay bills.
Right. And you were going to court from May to August.
Yes, that's how many times they keep.
Right. Yeah, you kept resetting it. You had to make
No, they did. I was trying to get it over.
Okay, so you went May 22nd, May 29th, June 26th,
Yes, ma'am.
July 10th, and then you pled guilty on August 8th, 2008.
Yes,
so that was like 4 years ago, and so it's been really difficult to find a job since then.
Yes, that's pain, and I've been going through it. Yes, ma'am.
That is just awful. That is awful, awful, awful. What do we do in a dilemma like this when you can't afford to go to trial, and then a lawyer makes you plead guilty to a crime you didn't commit because you're poor, basically? So then you're even poorer now, because now you can't go. Now you can't get a job. You want to work and you can't get a job, or if you do, you have to get a job making $7 an hour.
Yes.
What do we do as a society about that? I mean, we still have to, I mean, if she goes on public assistance, we have to pay for that. So wouldn't it have been cheaper for us to just pay for a lawyer for the right thing to happen so that she could still support her family? Because she wasn't a person that had to get public assistance. So you have to get it now?
Yes, I have to try to get that, because I have to take care of my kids, and they getting older and bigger. And I'm getting ready. My oldest, in 2 years, going to graduate.
Right.
So I'm trying to find a way to get a job. She go to college. She told me she want to go to college, and I got to find a way to pay for it.
Right. Okay, Ms. Turner, tell me what your thoughts are on this.
My thoughts are, especially with this, the case that she was charged with is a Class B misdemeanor. And you know the range of punishment for a Class B misdemeanor is up to a $2,000 fine or up to 180 days in jail.
That's what they told me.
My thing was with you pleading guilty to it. Even if you felt you were not guilty, I don't see any judge that would have not made her attorney go to trial on this case.
Exactly.
Even if you hadn't paid him. If you told the judge, Your Honor, I just can't do this, I'm not guilty, he wouldn't have taken your plea, and he would have made your attorney set this for trial.
So once you sign the papers and you go up before the judge's role is to make sure that you understand what you're doing, and that's your last chance to say, I'm not guilty of this, I'm just doing this, judge, because I can't afford a trial. And if you tell that to a judge is supposed to stop the process right then and let you explore options to pay for a trial. I mean, and if you can't afford it, there should be an indigency hearing conducted. Indigent means you can't afford a lawyer. A hearing to make you sign an affidavit to say what your expenses are versus your income, and to see if you can't afford it, and then to appoint an attorney, or like Equator Turner said, a lot of times they'll make the lawyer who's on your case just do the trial. There's many a time that lawyers have, like me, have just tried the case just because of the principle of the thing, and even though the person can't afford it. I mean, I never abandon my clients who are doing the best they can. I mean, a lot of times I won't take a case if they can't afford to even start off. But if I get involved in it, I'm not going to let somebody go down like that. I'll even find young lawyers to try the case for it, because it's just based on what you said, they couldn't have proven this. And the thing that hurts me the most about the fact that you can't work and support your kids, because false report to a police officer can be considered a crime of moral turpitude. You're a liar. So why would someone want to hire someone that has pled guilty to being a liar to the police? So an employer is going to look at you as someone that will lie to them and is not honest, and that's not who you are.
No, ma'am.
And the thing that's so frustrating to me about it is that it came because it's an officer was pissed off at you because you filed an internal affairs complaint to him, and HPD should not have sent that same officer to your house to take a second report. It's almost like they did that on purpose and came up with something to hurt you with it. And you were a tax-paying citizen. That's wrong. You make a report at Christmas, he talks ugly to you.
Yes, ma'am.
You make an IAD report because he talks ugly to you.
Yes,
and then he comes back when your car is stolen and then arrests you and goes through your house and intimidates your
ma'am.
family.
Yes,
That's awful. I mean, in a free society with tax-paying people, that should never happen. And we haven't gotten any calls tonight. It's 7 o'clock. I'm wondering if the phones are ringing, because I really want to hear from you to see if you think this is fair or not. The number is 713-807-1794. Please give me a call and give me your thoughts on that. What do you think, Ms. Turner?
Also with this, as you say, like yourself, I've tried many cases, Ms. Davenport, where they didn't have the money, and I just could not see the person go down, you know, without a fight. I've also pulled up case law, and there's a case law called Singleton versus State. It's in Texas Appellate 2010. In this case, it was pretty much the same as yours. It was with a vehicle stolen, but in this case, when the police officer came to speak with the person had mud all over their clothing. The car had been flipped, had been in an accident, had been flipped and had been totaled. So, but the person, when he came, he had mud, as the actual case says. He says when the officer arrived to speak with him, that the guy making the report, he went back and the officer noticed that he had thick mud on his pants, shirt, hands, and shoes. And none of, that will come to help to play that this guy maybe was in the vehicle. But in your particular case, Officer Pavel said he knew that you were not the one. He knew that were not the one that was in the vehicle at that particular time.
He told me point blank, I know you wasn't.
So in this case here, the guy was convicted because he reported his expedition as being stolen. Whereas in your case, I mean, you wasn't covered with mud, you was not there, you didn't have any scratches, you didn't have anything to prove or to say that you was actually the person who was in the failure to stop and give information. That you was actually the person that was in the car, because as you say, that car was
it was compacted.
Compacted.
Yes, ma'am.
And you would have had injuries. You would have had scratches. You would have had mud on you. Your hair would have been disordered.
Matter of fact, when he came, I was in my sleeping clothes.
Well, if the car looked like you said it looked, you couldn't have gotten out of that car right when it happened. But
no, ma'am.
I mean, he's just wrong for that. I mean, it's wrong for that, and you have a record for something you didn't do. It's just straight up wrong. Unfortunately, the only remedy you have is a writ of habeas corpus, which costs a lot of money, and it's to try to get the case reopened and reinvestigated. It's kind of what happens when people have DNA technology that can exonerate them from a crime a jury convicted them of, for rape when it wasn't them, when it was just a he said, she said, and we didn't have the technology to analyze the biological material, and that material is maintained and under good conditions, refrigerated, and now we have the technology to go back and match people's DNA. A writ of habeas corpus is what those people file. I mean, you could file one to say that the lawyer was ineffective and try to research it, but the thing is that'll cost more than the trial would have cost you, and you don't have the money to do that. And I think one of the things that we're going to do, Equator's already gotten on the phone, we're going to call TSU's criminal legal clinic and see if they do writs yet. At one point they used to do misdemeanor trials, but I don't know if they did do writ of habeas corpus. So we'll try to find out to see if there's some free legal help that you can get to see if there's a writ to try to see if we can undo this wrong, right this wrong for you. But like I said, that's a very expensive process. Now tell me, what else you expected when you went to court? You said you went to court a whole bunch of times. You thought they were going to talk to them. At some point, you thought you should talk to the DA. Tell me about that.
Yes, I did, because the simple fact is I still felt that he still wronged me. I was like, he still came in my house and just rummaged through every one of my rooms. And I said, what right did he have to do that? And to my understanding, you have to have at least police
A search warrant.
search warrant. Yes, a search warrant. I was like, he didn't have a search warrant, and you just telling people come around, and you got me in handcuffs, and you pretty much at first wouldn't even tell me what I was charged with. At first he didn't, and I kept saying, what are you charging me with? What are you charging me with, sir? You got handcuffs on me. What am I charged with? Then finally he said a false police report. I was like, sir, if you came earlier today, and anytime you felt that I was done wrong, why didn't you take me the first time? You knew for a fact and you felt that I did something wrong. I felt that you should have took me the first time you came. Don't come back 30 minutes to an hour later and beating on my door and then arresting me and saying I did something wrong. And I was like, what evidence do you have against me, sir? What? I'm in my robe and you telling me point blank that I didn't do anything wrong. I know you wasn't in the car. I don't see anything. Why? Why would you do this?
Wow. I know you. Were you crying and upset?
I was crying.
And he didn't even care.
No,
How did he
and
talk to you when he transported you to the police station?
I didn't even say no. I was so pissed off in the back seat. I was just crying and I was upset and I was just looking at him like, God gonna get you. Come on, some mug. I kept saying, come on, mother. I said more than that. I said, you gonna get yours. You are really gonna get yours.
You told him that out loud?
No, I was thinking that.
I was gonna say, God.
I said, no, because I think he probably pulled me up and beat me. I don't know about that. So I was like, I said, Lord, I was praying to the Lord. I said, you know what? Things happen for a reason. I said, I'm putting in this predicament. I don't know why. And this man is stopping me from making a living because I have a job to go to the next day. And maybe something good will come out of this. I don't know. But since this happened, nothing good came out. I said, but maybe it's a lesson be learned. I said, but why do I have to be the one to learn this lesson?
I know it. I don't, you know, life is funny. I mean, I'm not sure if we're supposed to learn lessons from everything. Sometimes I think evil just prevails.
Yeah.
I think the devil just prevails sometimes, and we just get caught in the mix of it. I mean, I know that life can be hard a lot, and we just got to keep living it.
Yes, ma'am. And that's why it just made me also tell my girls, do not get in trouble, do anything wrong, don't be in the wrong place at the wrong time. Do whatever you do, stay in lighted areas, and please do know who you're around at all times.
Exactly. Because in this situation, you did nothing to cause it.
No, I didn't.
I mean, do you realize now that you shouldn't have pled guilty to a crime you didn't commit?
Yes, ma'am. I do. And I kicked my butt in the...
How did you say guilty knowing you weren't guilty?
Because at the time, like I said, I was pretty much trying to find a job. I have kids, and I couldn't just keep on going to court. And I was like, you know what? I got to make sure my kids, because at the time, I couldn't even find a babysitter. I had to keep trying to find, I had to ask my mom and stuff. And I was like, you know what? It's not only me going through this. I'm putting my kids through this.
But weren't they in school?
Now, in July, no, summer.
Right,
it's the summertime.
Right, it was summer.
So
May.
not only as I'm going through this, I'm just trying to hurry up and do stuff for my kids.
Did you ever discuss the consequences of your pleading guilty?
I asked him, and he was like, well, you have to pay a fine. Once you pay your fine, it's over with, but it will be on your case. And I asked him, I said, would this stop me from getting a job? He said, well, it's not a felony. It shouldn't stop you. And I asked him, I said, you know, because I didn't do anything wrong. Only thing I did wrong to him was, I guess, is calling to report something of my car being stolen.
Why is that wrong?
Because that's what I went to jail for. I said, evidently, I don't think I felt that I didn't even do nothing wrong there, but to him, by me going to call my car is stolen, is wrong.
Well, that certainly wasn't wrong,
So
especially, I mean, he's wrong for saying that you were in an accident that he couldn't prove you in.
And I was like, what did I do wrong? I didn't do anything wrong. And I kept saying that in the back of the car, and I said, sir, why are you taking me to jail for false police report? I didn't do anything wrong. Only thing I did was call and told you my car is stolen. But you felt that I did a report. I said, why are you saying I'm doing a false report? I said, what am I in cuffs for? You did a report. I said, sir, you told me point blank what happened to my car. I was unaware of this. But you telling me what happened, what you supposed to wanted me to say? Oh, I knew. That what you wanted me to say? Oh, okay. Yes, I knew that happened. No, I can't tell you that I'm not aware of. Right. But you taking me to jail.
Right, that's crazy. You have any other thoughts on that, Ms. Turner?
I do. My other thought was, I wanted to know, how did she know the car was missing? You know, when...
Well, I have my car, like in my apartment, the apartment is, you could look through my window in my bedroom and I could see my car at all times because I park it right there. So if anything happened, I know. So when I looked, the car was not there. So I was like, wait a minute, my car is not there. So that's when I called the laws. The car is missing. So like I told, I called. I had to wait. It took them 2 hours to come to my house for them to even take a statement. Because I'm not in one of them areas that they come right away. So I basically waited 2 hours to get him to come, just to be arrested. So I waited and waited. I was telling my boyfriend, I'm like, are they coming tonight? I was like, really? What's going on? And then finally I got the knock at the door. He gave me an incident report, and I said, okay. And next thing I know, he came back 30 minutes, an hour later, and he said, no, you did a report, false report. I was like, and you going to jail. I was like, wait a minute.
Now, in your mind, were you thinking, because I've reported him before, he's retaliating against me? Were you thinking that then? Or
No, I was not. And then I was in jail, and I was thinking about it. I was like, why would he come back? And I kept thinking about it. And I was just thinking about it. Then I thought about it. I said, let me go home and look at my report. So I said, is that the same officer?
Oh, you didn't even realize it was the same officer?
No. And something telling me, I said,
did you live at the same place at the time?
Yes, it was the same.
So he knew it. So he knew where he was.
It was the same address and everything. So I was like, is this the same officer? I think. And when I was in jail, and I was talking to the women in there, they was like, telling the women that was in there with me, they was like, this is some crap. This is wrong. Even the inmates, the other ladies, and they was telling somebody, and they was like, they just messing over you. I said, yes, they are. What are you going to do? I said, what can I do? I'm locked up. I can't do anything but wait until somebody bail me out and hopefully get it dismissed. That's all I could do, and that's what I told them.
Well, have you learned now that when you get in trouble, you have a right to go to trial, not to get your case dismissed? Getting it dismissed is the rarity, because remember, the same people who take the charges are the ones you're expecting to dismiss it, and their job is to represent the police, prosecute, win or lose, and to go with, and the police officers have supposedly told them the truth, and the police officer is supposed to go and testify, raise their right hand and testify to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, and you're supposed to do it too. But there has to be enough evidence to believe beyond a reasonable doubt that you did what you were charged with, and that is make a false report, have an accident, and leave the scene, first of all. Yeah. You had insurance on the car, right?
No, I didn't.
You
and
didn't.
That's why I lost it. At the time, my insurance just lapsed. I didn't have money to pay for it, so it just lapsed. So it's like, what would I gain? I didn't have insurance.
No, you wouldn't gain anything.
No, so I ended up losing. Now it's on my credit report that the car got repoed for something that was stolen. So I didn't have insurance.
Wow.
I ended up having no car and then a misdemeanor on my report.
Misdemeanor record and a repo on your credit report. And a lot of times when the police think someone has reported their car stolen, they think it's to get the insurance money.
Yes.
And you didn't even have insurance.
I didn't even have insurance at the time.
It had lapsed. You had it, but it had lapsed.
Yeah, it lapsed a month before it happened. It just lapsed. So I didn't get anything out the situation. I guess he thought I didn't have insurance, and then I'm on the bus.
So there was nothing beneficial for you to report that car stolen?
No.
Wow. Isn't that a tragedy?
Yes, ma'am.
That's extreme tragedy.
That is a tragedy.
Yes, ma'am.
That is a tragedy. What lesson did you learn from this experience? I know you learned a lot of different lessons, but
Not to trust police. Not to trust them.
And that's just so sad. And I guess you were afraid to go file another IAD report.
Yes, I was.
I know. I
was thinking about it. I was going to. I said, but what would happen the next time?
Oh, my God.
So I said, you know what? I'm just going to live my life, try to raise my kids and make them a productive young women and teach them. And it's sad that I even told them to really watch out for the laws.
Right.
Yes, I told them, I said, be careful with the laws, really. And they was like, Mama, the law's supposed to help you. I said, they supposed to. That's what they supposed to do. But I said, one thing they got on your side is they got the badge. And he was a white man, I'm a black woman. I said, a lot of times they not even going to listen to what you got to say. It's his word over yours. And the most time, they were going to go over yours. Even if you telling the truth, they're not going to even listen to you because he got the badge on his side.
Right.
And I just have my word. And so I told my daughters, just be careful.
That is scary because you don't know what to do about that. That is so sad. So, like I said, it's unusual that we haven't gotten any calls. We have 15 more minutes. We haven't gotten any calls. My director said the phone lines are working fine. So give us a call, please, at 713-807-1794. So, Equator, you said you found a case like that.
Yes,
Now,
ma'am.
have you had a false report case in your experience?
Yes, I have.
But generally, someone has done it.
Generally, someone has done the false report, and it's something usually where they reported their boyfriend had did something, and he really didn't do it, and the person really wasn't there. But in this case here, I don't see any evidence that goes to say that Miss Davenport was actually,
She left the scene of an accident.
that she left the scene of an accident.
And falsely reported a car being stolen. That is so crazy. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen.
I've never seen anything like this. I mean, I've been practicing law since 2004, but I've never seen anything like this where she's actually, even when they send the same officer who she had filed an
unusual.
attorney, that's very unusual. That officer had no reason to come back to your house, none.
And I'm curious to know what that officer told to the district attorney's office to accept charges.
Yes, me too.
I mean,
I'm
how
curious
did they
about that.
prove that she was the person who failed to stop and give information in that accident? Because from what you said, the accident was caused with a police officer, a police chase. So
Yeah, it was a police chase, and that's what I heard. It was a police chase, and he told me it happened by 7 or 8 that afternoon. I said, that's what time I called y'all. Y'all took forever to even to come.
wow.
And
So your car probably just got stolen like about an hour or two before.
so, because I'm sitting here, and then he was like, it flipped, it was here, and I was like, oh, really? I'm like, for real? And he was like, I know you got something to do. You knew who had your car.
Wow.
I said, sir, how would I know who had my car?
Wow.
So I was like,
Did he ever verbalize the reason why he thought you knew someone had your car?
no, ma'am. He just kept telling me, because like I said, he just came in, when he kept telling me that, then he started going through my bedroom. He said, yeah, I know, you know. And then next I know, he going in the bedroom. I was like, where you going, sir? I was like, where are you going? And he just started walking through my house. I said, sir, I didn't give you permission to go through my house. Where are you going? He was like, just shut up. And I was like, you going to jail for false police? I was like, what are you doing?
No, he was definitely retaliating.
Yes, so
When that IAD report happened, they called him in for his side of the story, and they didn't sustain it because you just said he was being rude to you, whatever. But he was mad at you about that, and he knew it was you.
Yes, ma'am, because I really didn't understand why he was going through my house.
So he had an opportunity to go back, check out your license, find out that the car was in an accident, also to see that if he had done a call for service at your house before.
Oh, I didn't know he was able to do all that.
Oh yeah, he can check all of that. He can check through the dispatch if he did a call for service to your house. They can check all the calls that have come through your house, from your phone number if it was the same. He can put your name in there to see if you've ever been the complaining witness, and you were the complaining witness in that burglary case before.
Yes.
And since he was called in for an IED report, he definitely knew who you were because he has the address. He looks at the complaint. I mean, he knows about it. So you're on his radar.
Yeah,
He remembered you. You didn't remember him.
no, because it's really, I didn't expect to even call a law again, because that's not something, I don't even like calling laws.
Right.
So that's naive. I was like, oh, and that's the first thing hit my mind. Oh man, I gotta call laws again. I don't like that. So I'm saying it's Christmas time after that part, then here it go right here. I said, this is not my year. I said my stuff was stolen for Christmas. Now here it go months later. Now I'm going to jail for something I ain't.
Wow. Yeah, that is crazy. How did your kids feel about the Christmas things being stolen?
Well, I had to go. They didn't know everything was stolen, so
Because they didn't know, because it was
yeah.
Christmas, so
But
they
what
didn't know
I ended up
you
having
bought.
to do, I called around and went to some of these little places that give Christmas stuff. So it wasn't exactly what they were supposed to get, but it at least gave them something. I had to go to these different agencies to give them something, so they were still happy that they got something.
Oh, that's good.
Yes, ma'am.
That's good. But the car situation is awful.
Yes,
So on your
ma'am.
credit report, I mean, that is awful, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's totally awful. I mean, she didn't, there was nothing for her to benefit
No
out of this.
gain at all.
No gain. And she couldn't get the insurance out of it. She couldn't call a false report. I
'Cause she
just
didn't
don't
have
understand.
insurance,
She didn't
yeah.
have insurance on the car.
Did the officer ask you about insurance on the car?
No, he didn't.
Because he wasn't legitimately trying to
No,
investigate.
he didn't
the case.
ask me, 'cause
people who don't exchange information usually just because they don't have insurance.
Yes.
But a wreck with the police chief is totally different. That's somebody that got some dope in the car, they're doing something wrong, and they're running from the police officers. That's something totally different.
Well, like I said, I didn't know. Like, I still to this day really didn't know. When I seen that car, I was like, what really happened? I looked at it, I was like,
How did you get to see it?
they gave me since they said that it wasn't stolen, they gave me the lot number they hauled it to. So what I did is I said, I went to jail, if I want to see how this car look. So I gave somebody to give me a ride because I didn't have a car. My car, and so I went up there, I said, oh my Lord. I said, the tire was folded underneath the car, and I was like, how did they get out of the car?
Did you take a picture of it?
That's what I was going to ask.
I didn't have a picture. No,
You
I
didn't
didn't.
have the type of phone
No,
that you
I
could
didn't.
take pictures with?
I was just stunned to look at it. I was like, what
Wow.
the? I said, how did the tire was, I was like, how did the tire get like that? I was like, for real? And somebody crawled out that car? I said, go with the person who was in the car.
Really?
I was looking, I was like, and he really thought I knew who did this? It was just, I said, now, they started calling me to this day for the car to pay it. I still get calls from that. Then
And you can't get out of it because he wouldn't make a report that it was a stolen
Yes, ma'am.
car.
I told the people that I was financing it was stolen, but when they asked me, do I have a report?
Yeah.
And I said the incident, but then they go back and look at it. He never even turned the paperwork. He changed it out.
To a false report, yeah.
So it wasn't even put in as me a
That's just
stolen
wrong.
car.
That's just wrong.
That's totally
It's
wrong.
just wrong. I just don't know what you can do about it after the fact. The problem with in my business is because I've always cared about my community is that people call me constantly when they've already screwed it up. Nothing I can do about it. I'm a lawyer for hire. I would have never let that happen to you, but I can't undo it.
Yes, ma'am.
I never would have let that happen, even if I had to try that case for free.
Yeah, I would never let that happen to
Never
anybody.
let that happen.
That's why we're poor lawyers. Because
Yes,
we
that's
will,
exactly
we will
why
go
we're
to
poor
trial.
lawyers.
You know, it's difficult. I mean, but we can only pick a few a year to do that for because we have children to feed and offices
Yes,
rents to
ma'am.
pay and things like
Yes.
that too. So
Yes, ma'am.
it's very difficult, but we would never let that happen to you.
And that's why I also went, what was really funny after that is the judge that resided on my case, and that's another reason why I said,
You call me, yeah.
yes,
Yes.
that the judge, had to be stepped down and retired for what his
Well, because
misconduct.
he got charged, he got convicted of
Yes.
official oppression. For his name was Don
Judge
Jackson.
Jackson.
Yeah.
Yes. So I said at least
That's what she called me for. She said, because my judge was convicted of a crime, could that be a reason for me to get my case thrown out? But the problem is the judge had nothing to do with it. If the judge had overseen the trial, maybe that would have had something to do with it, but the judge really didn't do anything. Your lawyer plea bargained with the DA.
Okay.
The judge was not a party to that.
Yeah, that's what I
So he didn't
did.
influence that process at all. All the judge would have done, if the judge was there that day and signed your papers to ask you, are you pleading guilty because you are guilty for no other reason? And if you said yes, you had to say yes to fulfill the plea, you would have said yes. So that would be the only, I mean, the judge really didn't have any influence over your decision. Now, if you'd had a trial and the judge had some influence over the decision, then that would have been different. And that's what I had to tell you. But like I said, that's one of the reasons why I thought it was very important that, you know, I leave a legacy of a TV show because I get so frustrated with people calling me, wanting me to do something. Well, first of all, I'm mad because they don't try to hire me in the first place. But then second of all, they call me like I'm some civil rights leader that's getting paid, you know, to spend time to try to, when they're frustrated that their case is wrong. So it's always interesting to me that people spend a lot of time researching lawyers after the fact. They don't spend a lot of time at first, but they spend a lot of time after the fact. And maybe it's because they've got done wrong and then, you know.
Well, to be honest with you, I was looking for a lot of them, but
Just couldn't afford it.
I couldn't afford it, and then I don't really deal with a lot of lawyers, so I don't know who is good and who is not. So when I looked, I was like, please, Lord, let this be a good lawyer, because I didn't know his reputation. I just knew that there's something that I kind of could afford.
So I have a question. So you went with the cheapest lawyer that you could find.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that a lesson that you learned also?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, let me just say this to the viewers, too. If you can't afford a lawyer, then you go to court and you ask for a court-appointed lawyer. Because a court-appointed lawyer is going to be there, and if you tell them you're not guilty, then they have to go to trial for you. They know how to try a case more than the lawyers sometimes that you even hire. So do understand that. Do not plead guilty to a crime you didn't commit. If so, be aware of the fact that you might never be able to get a job again, especially if it's for something like Ms. Davenport got convicted of a false report to a police officer.
Yes,
We
ma'am.
have 3 minutes left, so I'm going to let both of you say something. You said you told your girls. Tell me the lesson learned, and then I will let you close it out, Ms. Turner.
Make sure I always tell my kids, if anything go wrong, I'm ready for them to talk to me first before. I said, come to me and let me decide what is the decision to be made. Because y'all are very naive and stupid. Y'all don't go by what I learned. I learned the hard way a lot of stuff. So my thing is to teach you what I already went through, for you wouldn't go through it. So that's my main thing, is try to raise my kids to be aware of everything. I told them, don't trust anyone. Make sure if you do trust them, at least be around them enough and ask a lot of questions.
Okay. Ms. Turner, let's tell me how you'd like to close this. What lessons learned in this case?
The first lesson learned is if your gut says never to plead guilty, never to do it. Also, another lesson learned is, I mean, just never say it. Here, you know, this crime, false report to a police officer, like Attorney King said, is a crime of moral turpitude. And crime of moral turpitude, you know, that goes against your character. So I just think here that Ms. Davenport was wrong. She was wrong from the beginning from the officer. She was wrong with the attorney that she hired, who basically coerced her into pleading. I basically coerced her into pleading. If he knew she wasn't guilty, then there's no way in his gut he should have went on and pled her guilty.
Even if he had to do it for free.
Even if he had to do it for free. If he knew you wasn't guilty and he knew that she couldn't. Now, there are some clients who say they can't afford it, but who can, who come with a Louis Vuitton purse and Gucci, you know, and Gucci bags. You've seen them just as I've seen them.
Right.
And they say they don't have any money. But when a person desperately doesn't have any money, your heart and your soul just really should go out to help that person.
Right, and that's one of the things that I agree with. But one of the things we have to learn as a society is we need to vote, we need to go to jury duty, we need to participate in the process. Just because Ms. Davenport had this happen to her, the police are still to work for us. And we need to make sure that the bad cops are gone, the good cops are there, and because this is an officer that's going to be retired, and we're going to be paying for him for the rest of his life if we just let an officer that's bad do something. We can't have that happen, to ruin her life because she made a complaint that he was rude. Nothing happened to him other than he got called in and said she was rude. That's really not anything to be disciplined for. But to retaliate, to use his power to ruin her life like this is awful. And, you know, God bless you. My prayers go out to you. And hopefully something good will happen. I forgot to bring you the list of places that hire people with records, but I will get your address and mail that to you along with the disc for the show. So please continue to watch the show. Please tune in next Wednesday from 6:30 to 7:30 when we bring you another very interesting story about the criminal justice system in Harris County. Also, call us with your comments and your questions. I'll be glad to answer them and try to make sense of this system. If you have a complaint about something, please call my office, and you're welcome to be a guest on the show to tell your crime story or that of one of your loved ones. So that, because there's a lesson that can be learned from all of us in society based on the stories that we experience in the criminal justice system. So my information will be rolling on the credits at the end of this show, so please watch it. If you want to see old shows, I have them on YouTube, and my channel is Vivian R. King. Thank you for watching.
Thank you.